thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'd like to welcome everybody that's here tonight. We want to keep building each and every volume. We're calling this in volume 2. We hope to keep adding well-needed things to help parents and students in our community. One of the biggest things I want to stress is our relationship with the sheriff's department, the judicial system. It takes all of us in a partnership with the parents to create a great environment and for students to be successful. At this time, I'd like to make sure I thank Smith County High School staff. Appreciate y'all letting us use your facility and having it ready. Special thanks to Tricia and Angel in the central office. And a very special thanks to Miss Christy Glover. She's put a lot of time and effort into this and got us a great panel tonight. I was very impressed with what little I heard you speak the other day, Johnny, on, as a parent, how these apps work. It's pretty impressive to me. So it was something I wanted to hear as a parent, not only in my role as superintendent of schools. Like I said, we're calling this one Volume 2. We would love to have anybody to call in or to text in if you know anybody that's here, if you got any questions. Even after the meeting, I think Christy had like 4,000 views last time. Even after the meeting, if you're viewing this and you see something, and feel free to call, anybody that you see here tonight or text, and we would love to get an answer for you. We hope this is very beneficial to your family, and our biggest thing is to protect your children. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Christy Glover, and she can introduce her panel and say a few words. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to put some resources on our school board website as well. Ms. Bonnie's going to link some that Johnny Ray shared with me. Thank you, panelists, for coming and doing this. We know there's a lot of time that goes into planning and just taking time out of your day, so we appreciate it. We try to do what we can to support our students and parents. So our first speaker tonight is Dr. Angela Lane. She is on the faculty at Belmont School of Nursing and the College of Health Sciences. School of Nursing and the College of Health Sciences, right. She's provided expertise in pediatric nursing for students for more than 10 years. Before teaching at Belmont, Angela worked as a pediatric nurse practitioner and registered nurse. Her love for children and nursing and families led her to the trust-based relational intervention training at TCU, Texas Christian, in Fort Worth University, in Fort Worth, Texas. She has taken what she has learned about providing care for children from hard places to student nurses, faculty, and community leaders. Thank you. Oh, okay. That's all right. I'll also tell you about our other speaker because they're gonna tag team on this together tonight. Johnny Ray. We were so fortunate to hear Johnny Ray speak at our back to school in-service this school year, and we were all impressed at one of our very own Smith County graduates to come back and give such a motivational speech to all of us, teachers and faculty. Johnny Ray Brown is a 97 graduate of Smith County High School right here. He and his wife Rebecca reside in Carthage with their 8 boys, all boys. He has 8 boys. I'm still amazed every time I see him out. No wonder he drives a bus. He has served for the past 20 years as the youth pastor for Carthage Full Gospel Church. He's been a school bus driver for 12 years and has worked as an independent IT contractor, both privately and for local businesses. Johnny Ray is the director and one of the founders of Smith County Mentorship Program. He's a Travis Manion Foundation Certified Mentor and Certified Facilitator for the Digital Futures Initiative. He is a Tennessee Shield of Care Suicide Prevention Facilitator, a Building Strong Brains Facilitator, and has been trained in the Trust Board Relational Intervention and trauma-informed classroom from the Purvis Institute. I wanted to say a little bit about the Smith County Mentorship Program. He gave me a little bit of information since this is his baby. I'll go ahead and say what it is. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization that started in 2016. It started out as a volunteer support resource to families in Smith County through the juvenile court system. It's since grown to offer services to or partnered with the Smith County Sheriff's Office, the Smith County Juvenile Court Systems, Smith County School Systems, the Department of Children's Services, the Travis Manion Foundation, and the Digital Futures Initiative, the District Attorney's Office, Public Defender's Office, local attorneys, churches, and families in Smith County. So that one program, it is reaching lots of places and lots of households. The mentor program focuses on training young adults to develop key principles to successful living, such as accountability, responsibility, ownership, setting communication skills, assertive communication skills development, setting and respecting boundaries, healthy coping skills development, conflict resolution, priority-based goal setting, goal-based decision making, self-discipline, honesty, integrity, resiliency, time management, job placement assistance, and cell phone and device safety courses. It's a lot of stuff, but all of it very well needed. They also have resources for parents, such as parenting support classes and the Parent Cyber Academy. So lots of things. He's full of knowledge, and we appreciate you being here to help teach us.
Steal this microphone real quick. This will help us, everybody hear better. Thank you, Ms. Christie, for the hard work that you put into planning this, and Mr. Berry for having us out. We really appreciate it. I've been in several schools across this county and talked with administrators and teachers and guidance counselors, and what a wonderful top-notch faculty and staff administrators here in the Smith County school systems. I'm amazed at how well they care for and look after all the children in this school system. I first met Dr. Angela Lane at the beginning of the mentorship program. I'm glad thank you for coming tonight.
Glad to be here.
And she did my first TBRI training, trust-based relationship intervention training. And I'm gonna give her just a minute to kind of talk about what TBRI is.
So TBRI was started by Dr. Karen Purvis, and she was a mom, and she had a couple of boys of her own who went on to engineering school. And it wasn't until her children were in school that she decided that it was time for her to go back to school herself. And she went on and got her doctorate in child development because she had such a passion for children. And through working with kids down in Texas at Fort Worth, she then went on to understand that there was a gap that was present, that there were kids from hard places. She had herself fostered several children and just saw that there was a need only after they'd had a camp for some parents and their kids to come in and realize that that parents didn't know what to do with their kids. Sounds very familiar to some of the things that we're still faced with today. And so she and Dr. David Cross went on to, just based on what they were doing with kids in this camp and what was working with the children, develop the trust-based relational intervention program that's then provided for nurses and social workers, foster parents, adoptive parents, teachers, and just anyone who has a role with kids from hard places.
A lot of the connecting principles that go with TBRI and why it's important. I have a lot of parents come to me sometimes and they're like, Johnny Ray, every time I take my kid's cell phone away, they act like a terrorist. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's fit throwing and it's a big emotional blow up. How do I handle this? And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to have Dr. Lane here tonight, is because half of this is knowing what to do. Half of this is knowing like where the apps are, having some support tools here and there that we're going to go over later. But the other half is learning how to just stay involved and connect with your kids and move forward with that. So that's why she's here tonight, and I think she's going to bring some very valuable insight into that. Now, a lot of the portions of what we're going to be talking about tonight comes from the Digital Futures Initiative. And it's a training that is given to SROs all across the United States. It's part of the advanced training for NASRO, the National Association of School Resource Officers. And it's very thorough training. This is the Parents Academy. This is usually 2 full sessions. I've kind of condensed it down to kind of focus on what we're going to talk about tonight. And and also before I get started, I'm glad I made notes. The Smith County Mentorship Program has a lot of working wheels, and there are a lot of people that have made it what it is and what it's doing. And one of the main cogs in that wheel is Samantha Lee. She could not be here with me tonight, but it would not be what it is without her and the hard work that she's put in. She's the lead female mentor for the mentorship program. We're going to go ahead and get started. Digital parenting. This is really the first generation of digitally native children that we've seen. I mean, devices have been around for since 2007. The smartphones have been around. So this is really like the first generation of kids that doesn't know what it's like to not have a device. I remember having to drive down the road and put coins in a phone to talk to my wife so no one would know what was like, no one could hear my conversation. My mom was nosy. I love you, Mom. But kids these days have everything at their fingertips, and they don't know what life is like without that. So parents this is new territory for every single parent right now, because your kids do not know what it's like. Would you turn your car keys over to a child without teaching them to drive first? The answer is no, we wouldn't. But we wouldn't hand a teen keys without training them first. By a show of hands, has anyone was taught to swim who was just thrown into the water? Anybody? Oh. Got one guy.
Thank goodness. The ones that live to tell about it.
And he
Good
lives.
to see you here.
He lives. Thank you. But generally, you don't want to do that. But when it comes to cell phones, what are we training kids? Are they getting on digital devices and platforms? Most of the time, we just be like, we'll hand the kid a phone and say, just be quiet for a few minutes because I need a break. I have 8 children. I know exactly what that's about. So if you see me at El Rey and my little kids have a cell phone, it's because I want 30 minutes of peace and a meal. It's not because I'm a hypocrite. I've weighed it out, and I know exactly what I'm sacrificing to have 30 minutes of a free meal, and that's worth it for me. But the trade is, if I go home and then I decide it's easier to keep my child quiet by just letting them have a device and go off in their room instead of having to deal with them, that's where it gets into danger.
Yes. So one of the things, too, when you're talking about the behaviors and the kids acting like terrorists in the midst of that, is to train ourselves to see the need beyond the behavior. And so when that behavior is occurring, what is the underlying need that's there? And I know that Johnny Ray's going to talk about that more in a little bit, but also that connection or that time that you're putting in so that you can even identify or have an understanding of what that may be is critical.
Digital wisdom happens when families prepare together for social and emotional nuances and set digital boundaries. I see a lot of kids that are come through the program or that I get involved with through the court system, and the first thing I do is I'll talk to them a little bit and what's your average day look like? And then when they get to the end, I've kind of made a few notes, and I'll talk with mom and dad or parents or guardians, and on average around here, I believe kids spend anywhere from 7 to 8 hours a day on a cell phone. And I had a kid one time, he's telling me, I don't have time to do my homework. My day's just so busy. And we started talking about it. And when he revealed the notes, he spent 8 hours a night on YouTube watching videos of other people playing video games, which is a thing. To not even play video games yourself, but to actually just watch other people play video games.
You know what's interesting, Johnny Ray, is I've had patients that would come in for neck pain is the presenting issue that would come in the door. And it's only after that conversation like you're discussing that we would determine that for one child, he was throughout the entire night hunched over playing this one was playing a video game. But the presenting sign was neck pain. And so they just get sucked into that rabbit hole.
Yep. My slide changer's on my phone. That's why I keep picking my phone up. But I'll watch people in restaurants sometimes, and it cracks me up. Sometimes when there's a ding for like a message, like 5 or 6 people go for their phones.
Yes.
And they can't. People will not just leave their phones alone. And if you want to figure out who you really don't trust in life, you lose your cell phone for a minute, and you'll start accusing everybody of taking it. And so that's how you know that sometimes there are problems. Let's talk a little bit about children's emotions. How do you think emotions are being impacted by digital media?
You want to ask the audience?
Yeah.
What do you think?
What do you think? Negative impact, positive impact? Haven't ever thought about it? Negative.
Impact? But as evidenced by what?
Maybe when you end the time that they have on the screen,
Yeah.
and then the reaction.
The reaction.
Yes.
When I talk to parents, most of the time they rarely consider the emotional impact for their children. Their number one is legal issues for misuse. When I worry about my kid on my cell phone, what's the legal issues? Number two is that they just spend too much time online. Then they worry about attitudes and behaviors when the device is taken, especially as like a punishment. And then they worry about predators and safety concerns, and then emotional well-being. The emotional side of it usually kind of hits the very back of the burner. And it needs to be on the front part of the burner because that's really the cause of some of the other negative effects.
We know that anxiety and depression are commonly associated with trying to emulate, to be like that image that they're seeing on the screen in front of them. And we know that for adolescents to be accepted is a very important aspect of where they are developmentally. And so how can I be accepted, or how could I be normal? And these images that they're seeing help to normalize for them what that goal or aspiration should be.
When I ask parents, what do you think the pros and cons of your child's device usage is? Here's a list I usually get. They're always in their room. I don't know if that's a pro or a con, but you're on both sides. They're happy when they have their device. They bother me less. They don't do their chores, and they're lazy. I'm not sure if my child could run if they had to. I heard I had a parent tell me that one time. Not sure when the last time my child saw daylight. Mm-hmm. Their grades are suffering. And then my siblings the kids get along better when they have their devices. So there's a lot of pros and cons that I keep hearing from parents. And so the struggle is, how do I prepare my child for a digital future and protect them at the same time?
And one of the things too to think about is, as a parent, what are you modeling for your child? Are you always on your phone as well? And a lot of us use our phones for work. Mm-hmm. We answer email, we send messages back and forth to family. We send messages back and forth to our children. It's also, in terms of being a pro, it can be a safety in that you text me when you get there, or let me know when you're on the way home so I'll know that you're going to be home. I know that in the classroom I teach college students, right? And so I know that we use cell phones in the classroom to have them to respond to polls, to be actively look up something. And so to say that we're just going to take the phone away is in itself not realistic, right? Because at this point where we are, we know that this is a part of society. And so how do we continue to navigate these waters safely?
And our plan is by the time this is done to answer a lot of those questions. First, we need to understand how our emotions are impacted by social media platforms. Also, how devices devalue human interaction and feelings, and getting people to be more aware of like false personas and misuse on digital platforms through emotional means. So there's a couple things we're going to talk about real quick. Some negative side effects of excessive device use. Mental health is a huge issue, according to WHO and the American Academy of Pediatrics, saying children are spending an average of 7 hours a day on entertainment media. The overall figures are likely to grow as younger and younger children get smartphones. I'll put this little caveat in there. Some people ask me for my opinion, and my opinion on cell phone usage and age appropriate for children. When they get a driver's license, get them a cell phone or like a device. But hold off as long as you absolutely can on getting them a device. The overall figures are growing more and more about how kids are doing that. The recommended age is 2 and up, and only 2 hours a day from the National Institute of Health. Overuse of technology can lead to attention problems, contribute to sleeping and eating disorders, and raise your child's risk of obesity. A lot of what I see, kids coming in, and I know parents and teachers deal with this a lot, kids coming in tired every single day and can't focus and can't do their work. And when you ask what time they go to bed, I'm sorry, but in Smith County, the average bedtime for a high school kid on a school night is between like midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning. And these kids, y'all need sleep, kids. If y'all watching this, you need some sleep. So when we look at the negative effects of too much screen time, insomnia and poor sleep.
Yes.
Lights from screens signal your brains to stay awake. That constant input throughout the day makes it difficult to unwind at night. I recommend to put your phone down and not have phone contact about an hour and a half to 2 hours before you go to bed.
Yes.
And that way your brain kind of has time to adjust. I don't know how many times like I'm watching woodworking videos on TikTok at like 10 o'clock at night. And then I'm like, my wife's like, why? Go to sleep. You have to drive a bus tomorrow. So I'm trying to go to sleep. And I'm sitting there thinking like, Johnny Ray, you're silly because you were watching videos of woodworking and now your brain's activated and you're stimulated. Now you have to settle down. Listen to your own advice.
Well, one of the things that we talked about before is that if you are saying, okay, we're not going to have screen time an hour and a half before it's time to go to bed, well, then what are they doing during that time? Because when you take that away, you've got to put something back in that spot, right?
Yep.
And so is it that that's going to be a time when we're thinking about these connecting principles from TBR? Are we just having a talk? And I know that can be hard to do. Are we even sitting in the same space together? Whether or not communication is going back and forth verbally, is there just a time where we are together so that I can tell you about my day and you can tell me about your day? Or is it that by chance we might pick up a book and read a book? Or, you know, some people like to listen to music to kind of calm down. You'll find that some individuals benefit from those weighted blankets a little bit before bedtime. You just don't want to exceed 10% of the body weight, or it becomes a restraint. But you know, just having that time for connection and being present with one another is one way that you may replace that screen time.
And that's what you were talking about, because if you take it away and there's a negative reaction, it's because you need to replace that with something. So we're seeing addictive behaviors. We're seeing neck, back pain, shoulder pain, changes in cognition, and reduced physical activity levels. There's a lot of things going on with kids from overuse of a device. So we've talked a little bit about it. It kind of touched on it through some themes here, but we're going to social influences on teens. Parents need to understand that kids' social conflict as they want to please different social influences. The first one is a parental influence. It's a child's role to live up to what parents want. And as elementary students, this is where children typically will be, pleasing their parents and living up to their expectations. Then we see that there's a peer influence and its role to living the social persona with peers. By middle schools, when you start seeing this picking up, they're beginning to separate from parents, falling into peer influences, wanting to fit in with their friends. And this is where conflict really starts to occur between parents and kids. They still want to please you, but also they want to please their peers. And device usage helps them to create that difference in secret if you don't watch it. Like if you're not in tune, if you're not observing it, if you're not careful, there will be like two different personas going on. So they're trying to live this one life online with their kids or at school, with their friends at school, and then with you, they're trying to live a different one. And that creates a conflict inside of the children, a lot of pressure to try to live up to what's going on. And that's just at home and then at school. And then there's a digital media influence.
I'd like to make a comment also on, if you think about the last interaction that you had with your child, or in the last 24 hours interactions that you had with your child, was it mostly of, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and this, you should have done this or should have done that? Was it negative repeatedly, or was this something that was more of just a conversation with them about, you did a great job with this, or I like the way that you did that? If every interaction that you have with your child is something that is beating them down, or is something that they didn't do right, or it's constantly negative, then why would they not want to seek out approval from another area? And so just being thoughtful, and as stressed as we can all be and just get into our own tasks that we have and just lives that we have as parents, that's a lot, right? And so just taking a moment to check ourselves and say, okay, where is our heart? Reminding ourselves about how important that relationship with your child is, and just growing that and feeding it.
Then there's a digital media influence. It's a role to live up to the demands of social media. Social media is mass information influencing them from all angles, and students are not emotionally mature enough sometimes to deal with the dynamics of digital media's impact. They're influenced by peers, predators, faceless people online that they've never met, and algorithms and social media influencers and so forth. And the problem is at an all-time high with high speed and mass amounts of data and information coming out from all angles. It creates pressure, low self-worth, confusion on trying to meet the demands from parents to peers and to social media that's always pressing something down on them. And when we talk about protecting your child's emotions with social media, that's what we're talking about. You have to be involved enough to kind of see what's coming and react and be proactive about that instead of reactive. Here we are. Okay, we're going to talk about a little bit about the effects of the digital network effects. Students need to establish social norms in digital spaces. They need to work early to establish what this looks like for them, and with guidance from adults in their lives. There's physical effects. We identify when and how device usage changes sleeps, eating, and exercise. There's mental effects. Identify when there's cognitive or emotional stress or self-image issues. Social effects, identifying good digital citizenship, protect and their privacy in a civil manner, and balance their online work. So when we look at some of the pros and cons here, cons are heavy social media use can possibly lead to depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. It can prevent development of social and direct communication skills. And real quick, what we see now, because a lot of kids do a lot of interaction online, is there's a loss of soft skills in communication. So like when it comes to being able to communicate, eye contact, when you're talking directly to the people, communicating their emotions in a way that will help resolve conflict instead of create it. Online, there's this like blanket of I can get away with this because no one's here with me. My mouth has wrote some checks that bounced a few times because I wrote them in person. And if I wrote them online, there was no one there to cash that check.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that loss of social skills and soft skills because of the heavy cell phone usage. It can embolden people to harass others online, can be a major distraction for students, can lead to poor academic performance. Can provide a platform for shy people to express themselves and boost their confidence, which is important.
Yes.
Kids are fighting to have needs met all the time.
Attention.
Yeah. And so a lot of the times they will get like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need food, water, shelter, clothing, but there's one that talks about the need for love.
Yeah.
And the desire for attention and affection. And that's what social media and cell phone and these platforms kind of prey on. They know kids are looking for acceptance, and they know that they're hungering for that, and so they give them exactly kind of what they're looking for in a way that they make money off of it. If you wonder why, like when I was talking to this parent who said that their child acts like a terrorist when they take their cell phone away, I explained this part to him. It's called The Magic of Maybe by Professor Robert Sapolsky. The reward of a social media post, 100% of the time, the dopamine, if you post something and they like it, like everyone likes it 100% of the time, the dopamine hit that you get from that acceptance is like 100%. It's a small sense of pleasure, right? But then, if it's rewarded at 50% of the time, like you make a post and then 2 or 3 people like it, and then you come back 20 minutes later, oh, who else has liked it now? And then you come back another hour later, who's liked it now? So there are scientists and psychologists that work for platforms that know that this is how this works. So it's 400% stronger. It's close to cocaine, like the dopamine released in your brain. This chemical for what's it? Not happiness. What's the word I'm looking for?
Well, it's a euphoric.
It's a euphoric sense. This chemical is released in your brain at 400%. And social media platforms know this, and so they keep you coming back. So it's like that's why they're acting this way, because every time that they do that, an anticipation of this dopamine hit creates a chase for hope, for the addiction. So it's like they're like, okay, so if I post this, who's going to like it? Is so and so going to like it? How many of my friends have got it? Oh, look, I'm almost viral. Like that chase for them is releasing dopamine in their brain, and that's why they keep doing it. Behavioral research shows this grabs and holds our attention and focus. It's called the gambler effect. So like when your kids are on making posts and videos and things like that, I guarantee you they're going back, who's liked it, who shared it, who all is following it, like everything. They're doing that because this is designed to release dopamine in their brain, and that's why, and I told that parent, I said, that's why they act like a terrorist. So back in the day, I guess when me and Mr. Randy over here was young, we would get a job, and then we would earn some money. And then we would go out here and we would buy some gas, and we would drive around the courthouse, and we would drive around Hardee's, and then we would sit and we would talk to our buddies, and if we wanted entertainment, we would go from the money we earned from our jobs, and we would take our girlfriends out and we would go watch a movie. Mm-hmm. So our social interaction, our entertainment, it was this exterior process. With cell phone devices these days, outside of the dopamine addiction, you see that their social interactions is like 90% online. Their entertainment, watching, like they're getting so much of their entertainment from that. So when you take a device, you're not just saying, give me your phone. You're taking, number one, you're taking the dopamine hit from them. So that's why they act a little bit like an addict. And then you're taking their social interaction, and then you're taking their entertainment. And then you're like, why are you acting so crazy? You're like, that's exactly why you're acting crazy. So when I explain that to that parent, they're like, okay, I'm beginning to understand. And it's unfortunate, but that's exactly what they do. I want to talk a little bit about TikTok. So everybody does TikTok. I'm going to load all my points real quick. They created 100 bots accounts, which is like by a computer, and they put them on TikTok, created these accounts. And they geared one for sadness and depression. So one of the automated accounts was programmed to respond to sad or depressive content and received 93% of its videos on that depressive content. So bots are potentially humans, and in just 30, but they're not, it's an algorithm. In just 36 minutes, a person will end up going down a rabbit hole and be stuck. In this case, the video stream was stuck in a state of depressing videos. So if you're, the funny thing about TikTok that I found was you don't even really have to like tap on a video or like a video. If you watch 2 videos back to back, watch the same video back to back twice, it starts engineering your feed. You must have liked it because you watched it twice. And so it's designed literally to kind of lead based off your emotions. And which is okay if you're stable. But if you're a angsty or slightly depressed teenager and you get on TikTok and you start looking up sad videos, within 36 minutes, the TikTok algorithm had figured out that this bot, but it thought it was a person, wanted to see depressive content, and some of the content that was flowing up on that was talking about self-harm, and so it would be exposing a child to things that they probably hadn't even thought of, just because of how that was programmed. If you've ever wondered, I'm going to skip a little bit. If you ever wondered how they make money on social media, you're like, how do they make money? People don't do anything on there, but this is how they make money. When they gain your attention, it turns into data. When it turns into data, it turns into money because they sell your time, your data on there. Like, okay, so they know that I like woodworking and videos of people grilling and smoking meat. Okay, I'm 43, so you either get into World War II reenactment or meat smoking. Okay, so they know that about me. So have you ever said something around your phone, or said something about somebody, like a product you're interested in, and then next thing you know, your phone's like, oh, sure, Amazon, how did you know I was talking about that? So even the devices kind of listen to this, but your data is slowly being sold, and it's sold through your attention. So they're basically advertising to you based off what you view, what you slow down on, what you click on, what you tap on. And that's how they make money. These platforms are built to capture data. They're addictive in nature, and they alter our behavior. As what we were seeing with that TikTok algorithm, it really can speak into and lead and guide your emotions. If you're not stable, if you don't pull it back, if you're young and in development, you're really susceptible to it. They did this is great. They did 12 tasks. I think it's 12 tasks. Yeah, they did 56 tests across 12 states with all demographics. And only 20 to 25% of kids could figure out the truth behind the article, the advertisement, or the picture. Like, when kids see stuff online, they literally just take it as fact. It's like, oh, all I have to do is see it on Google. And so one of the things that I tell parents is that it's the crap test. Is it current?
Yes.
Is it reliable? Who's the authority behind it? What's the purpose of it? Like, is it credible? Is it reliable? And like, when you teach your kids to like question things and develop critical thinking skills, that's super important. Because otherwise, whatever they read on the internet, they just believe is fact. In fact, Abraham Lincoln did not say that the internet is what you can never know if they are genuine. The trouble with quotes, he did not say that, and I don't even think that's Abraham Lincoln.
It's been
It looks like
Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin. I don't have a lot of those in my wallet, so I can't tell. So there's a spiral effect that kind of happens with things when kids kind of get on there, and social media is a lot like a small town high school drama drenched rumor mill, but it's rolling online 24/7. With some of these people, like, your kids don't even know. Like, there are people who it takes less than 24 hours for a social media post to travel all around the world. So, like, your kid made a post yesterday, today someone in Russia could be seeing that post. Like, it can travel around the world in 24 hours. And so suggestion is an idea that's put out for consideration. We're going to spell spiral real quick. Then it goes into promotion. It's information of a misleading nature or bias to promote a point of view. Then it goes into imitation. They copy or simulate what they've observed. Then rumor. They recirculate the story or report which has uncertainty to its truth. So it literally is just like high school. Altering. It causes us to change our beliefs, our character, or actions toward another, and our emotions. And it'll lead us in a particular direction to develop a belief. So there's a spiral on how this works when your kids get online and they're looking at social media posts or they're seeing things. Like, it begins to kind of affect them, and it does alter them. It does lead and guide them. And you'll see trends that used to be like, oh, it'd take maybe a month and a half for a trend out of Nashville to make it to, like, here. Or like California used to take a couple months for a trend to get here. Now a trend can start in one spot and be all over the world in 24 hours. So there's no real big shift in, like, areas now. It's just like almost a one world effect, and that's how that spiral works. Emotions, not facts, really kind of guide what goes on online. Full response, they fuel response on digital platforms, resulting in echo chambers and extreme opinions and polarization. Emotions really kind of run what happens on social media. Even in, like, news media, like disaster or bad things that are happening, it sells. And social media really takes that to the next level when it comes to kids. We're going to talk about FOMO real quick, and that's fear of missing out. And that's how kids have a fear of not being a part of, like, a Snapchat story or what's going on Instagram or YouTube, or if there's a new game. And fear of missing out really drives a lot of why kids kind of get involved in these things. They're looking to be, they're looking for connection, they're looking for acceptance, they're looking for ways to fit in with their peers, and the fear of missing out really kind of drives that whole thing. We're going to talk about fame, and that's face. Number one is you should be concerned with the people who are accessing, like, your child's pictures. Or fellow teens or videos or anything like that. You need to be concerned about the pictures that your kids put online. Like, what are they posting? There are some apps that have a location on it that will kind of drop a pin kind of where your kid is. And other people can see it. So if they can see it and they post a picture, they can determine, like, which level of the floor the kid is in, where their bedroom's at, where the window's located, and they can tell exactly how to get to your child's room off of a picture and an app.
Yes.
And that's scary. Number two, the address, obviously. So you don't want them posting phone numbers, address online. You don't want location services turned on their cell phones. That gives things away. And it's not really just the phone, but even inside the app. So Snapchat has a location services in it. Memoirs, like, what are they telling, what are they sharing on social media? Typically it's something about their emotions. And emotions, reason why we need to kind of protect that online is predators use emotional states to take advantage of kids. So if they see a kid that's looking for acceptance, that's dealing with depression, that is a big red flag, like, for a predator. They're like, someone's going to seek that child out. if they post stuff like that online. So guarding their emotions and what they post is a big deal. Let's go to the next slide here. I'm actually going to skip this slide.
The goal.
I want to talk about this selfie dysmorphia. And selfie dysmorphia is there are people requesting medical procedures to resemble their digitally filtered image. Person desires for an unattainable and unrealistic standard for beauty. Flawless skin, big eyes, whiter teeth, plump lips, thinner face, facial features. I'm not saying I'm not ever like whitened my teeth on a photo before. I may have had. Everybody's kind of like prone to like, okay, let's see what we can do with this. Let's see what we can Photoshop here. That is taken to a whole different level when teens who are still developing in their emotions and their mindset, and they get online and they're comparing themselves to not just one or two people, but to the entire world. And it's not even a real interpretations of these people. It's a fake version of it that's already been doctored. And so when you see this start popping up, and low self-esteem, confidence issues, anxiety, depression will be the more likely the ending of too much time spent on social media. Any thoughts on
I didn't know.
that? Okay.
I did have a thought about the tags for location that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The tags that could be dropped in purses, they could be dropped in backpacks,
Mm-hmm.
so that individuals can track them. Is something
Yeah.
to be aware of as well. And know that 90% of child sexual abuse victims know the person, the perpetrator.
Yep.
And so these individuals, it's really important to have an understanding.
Emojis, we're going to talk about how digital media exploits emotions. Emojis are designed to get us to respond with an icon to describe how our feelings are to others. So if you start posting about being sad or upset, and it reveals an emotion for a child, people can take notice on that. Picture posts, they entice us to act or do something similar. I don't know if I got tickled at 2020. Nobody wants to talk about 2020. I don't blame you at all. But we had a toilet paper shortage in 2020, and everybody posted pictures about it. And as soon as people started posting pictures about it, there was not toilet paper anywhere. And I know a guy that had 150 rolls, like holed up. And I was like, you better hope no one finds out that you have toilet paper, because they're gonna come for it. But that's how kind of things can spark like a wildfire with social media. Like or follow shows a person's emotional attachment to something, and it's all kind of feeding an emotional reaction. So this one's going to hit home to us real quick because it's every one of us that kind of deal with this. Phones' powers to devalue humans. A phone in hand. Oh my goodness. Do you feel like you're the most important in the room if you're talking to somebody and they're texting somebody? They're on their phone like doing this. So when I get home, I try to like take my phone and put it somewhere up on top of the fridge. I'm like, okay, I have 8 kids. I need to get face-to-face time with all of them. We need to have supper. And so I need to put my phone up. And it never fails during supper time. Something's dinging or ringing or buzzing. And like I really, really like want to go get that phone. And I've caught myself several times bringing it to the table. And I'm like, okay, I'll try to be a little bit respectful to my family and let them know I love them. I'll turn my phone upside down. I'm like, no, that doesn't really show that. It means you're kind of important, but you're not totally important. So you don't communicate that you're important if you're like always having that phone there. Phone in the face. Does anyone care what I'm saying? Am I valued? If you're like, that's one of the things that I see parents with kids. Their kids are like this all the time. They're like texting. And they're like, are you even listening to me? Yeah, I'm listening to you. Well, you don't look like you're listening to me. Like, yeah, I'm listening to you, Mom. Leave me alone. And it's like the phone's right in their face. It's not communicating respect, the loss of soft skills, communication skills. There's that transfer of respect and communication and value that's missed out because of that.
And we do it as adults all the time as well. I mean, even in the space, you see there's that lack of engagement within that. And so when we model that for students, that makes it difficult to then say to them, no, put your phone down whenever I'm in it myself the whole time.
Yeah.
We can't even pay attention for a short amount of time, and yet we expect them to do that.
Got my Loki's punch real quick. Predatory emotionally grooms others, and so we're going to talk about predatory grooming real quick, and that's something that scares the soup out of parents. And it should be something that you're aware of. It happens online, and it happens. It don't matter what gender your child is. It happens either way, and it's something.
1 in 6 children in Tennessee that experience child sexual abuse, and that's a significant number. It's 1 in 10 for the United States, and like I said before, 90% of those kids know the person that is the perpetrator.
The first point is they build trust and secrecy over online conversations. Grooming is using trust and secrets to create a connection with teens online. And they manipulate the teen into something that's very inappropriate most of the time. And they're building trust and secrecy over the internet, and they're trying to find a connection with kids. And so that means that the child is lacking connection. And that's why that I think that connecting with your child and these principles are so important, because we can give you apps, we can give you resources, we can tell you, we're going to talk about some devices later that are great for you. But at the end of the day, your child is seeking connection, and that's important. They will also create, predators will create similar interest, and they'll pretend like they enjoy to do the things that you do. They pretend like they have favorites and likes and dislikes all the same. By making the teen believe they have similar interests, the teen feels understood and connected to the predator. They will take your side. They will disagree. They will agree with you and disagree with your parents. So parents realize that is what goes on when a predator is they're trying to isolate your child from you. So they'll create commonality, and they will draw your child in with this promise of connection. They will isolate. They'll try to isolate your child from real world friends and become their best friend. And then secrets. They'll get the child to share secrets with them, and then they'll use those secrets to manipulate. So eventually, when they've connected with your child long enough, the child will share something that they do not want shared for no reason. And then once the predator gets that, he can use that to manipulate. And that is such a huge danger for your children concerning social media.
So what do you do if your child tells you, if you do have that relationship and they tell you, then you let them know that you believe them, right? You report it, and you let them know that they didn't do anything wrong, because they want to, if they're being vulnerable enough to let you know, then it's important for you to think about how you're responding whenever they come to you. But you get that only with a connection and relationship, if you have that where they feel like they can come to you to tell you that. And it's in part by also knowing what they're interested in and expressing some interest in things that they like to do, even if it differs from your own.
We're going to talk a little bit about what some things parents need. You need a game with your kids too. All right, you need to know what games they're playing. You need to understand. Just sit down and have fun with them. Play games with them, even if you lose horribly. Play games with them. That'll give you some insight on what games they're playing. Number one. Number two, what skills that they're learning, and what the biggest challenge of the game was. And that's when family flow really happens, is when you get a good skill level and a good challenge, and they're both high, and you spend time with your child. It's okay to play video games with your kid. Now, one of the things that the least enjoyable part of the mentorship program is sometimes when I'm working with a child, we'll sit down and play video games with the parent and the child. It's unenjoyable for me because I'm horrible at it. but the kids, they really enjoy playing games and whooping their parents so good. And when there's aggression that comes with video games, that is a sign to turn it off. Devices are so much more than just a cell phone, like Xboxes, PlayStations, tablets. Everything that we're kind of talking to you about tonight can happen on any of these platforms. And kids love to game a whole lot, and the people that they meet online, that they talk to online, can pose the exact same risk or danger. Okay, safety and protection. For information, privacy settings. Change settings on social sites to best protect your personal data. I guarantee you that your children have not ever thought about what their settings are on their privacy. They've not considered it. They set their account up and they hit the ground and took off running with their friends. Unique passwords. Use first or last letters and names, never a team or a pet name. You want good passwords for your kids, and you want your kids' passwords. I've had parents tell me before, but I'm invading their privacy. I'm like, unless you would invite a stranger like into your child's room to like spend the night with them and just trust them, you're not going to do that because you're not crazy. So you need access to your child's phone whenever you want it. 24 hours a day, you should be able to grab it and have your fingerprint programmed in where you can open it at any given time and go through what they have. And if they've got a secret from you, you need to know why they have a secret. Why do they not want you to? Block bad influences. Kick those doing inappropriate things off your apps and sites. Report them. That's what the reporting tools are there for. Reports on sites. If reported, sites can and do remove people off their platforms. Adult mentors for advice. Still having some trouble navigating some of these issues with your kids. I go with the high five rule. I'm like, your kids need at least five people in their life that they can talk to about anything. And I'm talking about parents, guardians, grandparents, aunts, uncles, 5 adults. What I usually find is kids have 5 other kids that don't have a clue what to do and what life is about and any amount of wisdom. And they ask those 5 kids how to make decisions, and they wind up in a mess. Yeah. So you need to like pick them out. I have 2 people that I for sure like say, hey, you need to spend time with my son sometimes, because I know that I don't need to be the only influence in my child's life, and he may not ever want to share everything with me. So I handpick people to mentor my son as well. And that was a tough pill to swallow because I wanted to be everything to my kids, but I also understand that they're becoming adults and they need to go ahead and develop that because I can't be their everything all the time. And so if I handpick them and introduce that and help develop that relationship for them, then I know that these people are trusted. And so like your children need people that they can talk to, but you need to handpick them, you need to vet them, and you need to watch over it as it happens.
Also wanted to point out that some of the apps on your child's phone may be pseudo apps. And so I want to see, are you going to discuss that in a little bit also, Johnny? Right?
I will discuss that.
Okay, perfect.
Being the best online involves a few things. Number 1 is sleep. Your child should not have a device in their bedroom overnight. And you're like, that's my child's alarm, that's his alarm clock. Most of the kids and issues that we see come through juvenile court that involve a cell phone have to do with a child who's had their phone in their room between 10 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning. And me and Miss Angela were talking about this earlier. It's really hard to think about your mid-teen child like doing something dumb, because a lot of times you just like, well, they're 8 years old, they can take care of themselves to a point, they can go to the bathroom by themselves, they can make a snack, they're good. And then a few years later we're like, here's a cell phone, you're still a pretty good kid, your grades are all right. And we don't think about, oh, we still need to be deeply involved in what's going on. And a lot of issues that we see are popping up are because kids have a device in their room overnight. And that should not be the case. Like I said earlier, unless you would let like your child have access to the entire world in their room without you watching it, don't do it.
You have to remember the prefrontal lobe, that lobe of the brain that helps with judgment and rational thought and being able to navigate so many things coming at us is not fully developed until about 25. That we don't fully have that good judgment and that full development of prefrontal lobe. And so it's not until that point that that you can, that there's not advice and guidance that's needed.
We're gonna review real quick a few things. There is no best solution. We're talking about some solutions and apps and some hidden vaults and lockers and things that several people have asked me about. Real quick, I'm gonna tell you, it's more than phones. You should consider measures for your home, for your network, for your Wi-Fi, computers, devices, phones, web-enabled TVs, voice-enabled devices like Alexa, iPads, and Kindles. There is no best solution that just kind of fits everyone. Like any control system in every family situation, they're all different in their merits. For younger children, controls for inappropriate content and apps are a must. For older children and teens, they will need some access to sites and apps that we do not recommend for young children. Many platforms don't just stop at parental controls, but look to invade and trace every message, conversation, login time, and every device. I like Life 360. I think it's a great app. I'm not real big on spy apps per se, but I'm a big fan of time control apps, digital devices that are not a babysitter, but they set time limits per day, less time for the younger ones. Cut off about an hour before bed is good. Until you kind of gauge what kind of sleep that your child needs, but they usually need about 9 hours of sleep. And I guarantee you a lot of these kids are probably getting maybe 5 or 6 hours a night, just based off of what I'm seeing.
Well, the teen needs even like 9 to 10 hours a night. They need even more sleep.
Viewing threats. Devices are a gateway into the World Wide Web. That means exposure to all kinds of things, violence, extreme views, and more. If you're not ready for your child to be exposed to anything like that's in the world, then you need to be ready to monitor it, regulate it, and think hard about letting them have it. Mental threats. Your child will likely be they will be bullied online. I'm not going to be like it's a gamble. It's going to happen eventually. It's so rampant online, either through text or social media or on a device. Severe or extended bullying can have long-lasting effects on the mental state of your child. So realize that comes with it. When you hand a child a cell phone and say, here you go, realize eventually they're going to be bullied. And if you don't talk to them about it and have a plan in place, and if you're not willing to take that risk, you need to think twice about giving them a cell phone. Physical threats. There are bad actors that are feeding off the naivete of kids online, and it starts with extortion and leads to contact in real life and potentially human trafficking. And Tennessee is a dangerous corridor of human trafficking. You can be in about any state that's like one of 5 or 6 states in less than 2 hours. So when a child goes missing in Tennessee, Nashville area, there is a scramble to find that kid. There's a scramble every time, but my heart thumps when I hear that a kid's missing, because it's like I know if they get on I-40, or if they get on I-75 or I-65, 840, they can be anywhere in about 2 hours, and it's hard to track, isn't it? It's really hard to track. We'll talk about some safety and security devices here real quick. The first app I'm going to talk about is Bark. I love Bark. I use Bark. I've used Bark for about 3 years now. The Bark's the simplest parental control app on the market. It delivers powerful protection. It really does steal the show when it comes to social media monitoring. And it's about $14 a month for unlimited devices. What I like about Bark is even if my child takes a picture of a phone on their phone, it will flag it. Like one time my child took a picture of the bend of his arm and the phone thought it was a bottom and it flagged it and sent me a thing, said, oh, there's an inappropriate picture on your child's phone. So I went and looked at the pictures and you saw that coming in from the arm and then like coming in, I was like, oh, he took a picture of his arm, tried to make it look like something else. And so it will like get in there and flag those things. Now Bark is primarily a reporting tool. It does not prevent, but it will tell you just about everything. You have to go online and connect the Instagram app and Snapchat and Messenger. You have to go in and connect all those. But once you do, it's a very powerful monitoring tool. And what I loved about Bark is it created opportunities for me to have dialogue with my kids. Because I've seen message boards between my kids and other friends, and I'm like, you know what, they're getting a little bit out of line. And I was like, my wife has agreed that I get to talk to my children about that. So I get all the alerts and everything. So when I see things coming through, I'm like, okay, I need to sit down and have a talk with my child. And I'm like, you and your buddies are getting a little bit out of line in some areas. So it really created an opportunity for dialogue. And in our house, when it comes to how we deal with things, I'm a little more calm and level-headed, and my wife is more like the John Wayne of the house when it comes to that. She will kick doors open and be like, hey, and if you're listening, baby, I love you. And so I kind of take the lead on this because I'm digitally inclined as well. But Bark is a great reporting tool, and it's created a lot of opportunities for me to sit down with my children and talk about their viewing habits, what they're watching on YouTube, and like when it gets out of line or it starts getting on a boundary, it lets you know quick. I really like that. Custodio. It's a well-rated, sophisticated solution with all the features you'd expect. This stands out for families with multiple devices types, like it'll do Kindle, Android, and iOS. Bark only does iOS and Android. So it's $55 a year for up to 5 devices. The next one we're going to look at is called Kids Locks. And Kids Lock has powerful parental control solution for iPhone, iPad, and Android. You can control your family's device usage, filter web content, block apps or websites, set weekly schedules with screen time limits all from one place, and it's about $5 a month per device. Then we're going to look at Norton Family Premier. Family Premier offers parents a variety of key features, makes it easy to manage all these options. A notable feature is it's robust with web supervision, which allows you to block sites entirely or simply just keep a log of the sites that they visited. Kaspersky Safe Kids. It's a full-featured, affordable parental monitoring system for desktops and mobile platforms that doesn't impose limits on the number of devices you can monitor. Works well with Android, iOS, Macs, and PCs. It's $14.99 a year for unlimited devices. And then Wondershare FamiSafe features all the usual tools for keeping kids safe, including setting limits and blocking inappropriate content, but can also detect potentially inappropriate photos and text messages, can block games and monitor your kids' whereabouts with GPS and geofencing. And it's $60.99 a year for up to 30 devices. Those are all some really great tools for parents when it comes to monitoring the safety and security from that perspective. We're going to talk about a whole home router level solution. And one of the easiest things for me, I use Firewalla. And I like Firewalla because I can go in and turn off particular devices just with a click of a button. I'll be like, okay, you're off, you're off, you're off, you're off. And it happens immediately. I can disable comments on YouTube videos. So my kids can search YouTube videos, and sometimes the comments get way out of line. So I can disable comments. And I've had one of my kids before said, "Dad, I can't see the comments. What'd you do to the internet?" I'm like, "I turned your comments off." He's like, "But that's the fun part." I was like, "I get it, but you don't need to see the comments." So I turned your comments off. And it starts at the router, so there's not really a bypass that the kids can do. If there are sites that are up that haven't been registered yet, it might slip through there. But Firewall is one of the best that I feel whole home solution, and it gives you reports all the time. And it tells you when devices are added, when they're not. You can turn off gaming, you can turn off social media apps. You click one button and all the social media apps are disabled. Your kid cannot access platforms from their device. I love Firewall. And they have different versions of it that range from like $99 up to like $5.99. I got the $1.99 version. I've been very happy with it, and it does good at our home. A free solution, not a free solution, I clicked the wrong one. OpenDNS Family Shield. It's owned by Cisco. Family Shield is a free service from OpenDNS. It's parental control tools, automatically blocks domains that OpenDNS has flagged under the headings of tasteless. It's got all kinds of parameters. When you go in and set up OpenDNS, you can click different things. And so when I monitored and clicked that I wanted to cut out like lingerie so my kids don't get into the wrong type of search, I'll just be honest here. Then we couldn't buy Halloween costumes because we were trying to go buy a Batman costume and you couldn't buy it because OpenDNS filtered it out. So I know that works well. One of the big pluses here is that with Family Shield you can run PCs and mobile devices. You can also apply it to your network router and filter all traffic that passes through it. And it's just a matter of changing the DNS server numbers from your control panel. You go in to OpenDNS, set up an account, set your parameters, set a password for it, change your DNS numbers on your router, and get it running on the device. It's a pretty easy setup. Circle Home Plus is a quality solution for younger kids. Parental control device, Circle Home Plus, delivers good tools for keeping an eye on your home network and protecting your children's phones and tablets. Circle Home Plus can monitor devices at the router level of your home network via an app on your child's devices. It's $129 for a one-time and ongoing monthly subscription for $9.99. So we're going to look at some manufacturer and carrier options real quick. If you got cell phones and tech platforms here we go. Apple Parental Lock, Apple devices only it works with. Apple Parental Locks allow the parent to control the use of selected apps, downloads, and prevent access to explicit content for free. Google Family Link is Android only, manages apps, keeps an eye on the screen time, and sets a bedtime for your child's devices for free. Verizon offers a Smart Family. It's $4.99 a month for regular or $7.99 for premium. Smart Family helps you find the right balance between device time and family time. AT&T offers a Secure Family. It's $7.99 a month for up to 10 lines. It can block cellular data usage, set text and purchase limits, block numbers. And T-Mobile Family Allowance. Family Allowances allows the parents to control the time spent on the phone, messages, downloads, and numbers to block. Okay, digital vaults and lockers. I'm going to tell you, kids are smart. And most likely they are smarter than you when it comes to cell phones. We're going to talk about the best secret folder. So kids have something to hide will do just that if they've got something to hide. Vaults, ghost apps, or hidden apps are designed to disguise themselves as a common app like a calculator, music, file manager, etc. But with the correct passcode, you open the secret storage area. While there are hundreds of such apps across the mobile device platforms, we're going to talk about just a few samples tonight that are kind of popular. The best secret folder app is an iOS app used if you don't want anyone to know what you downloaded. It's disguised as a My Utilities, creating a covert place for photos. There's an intruder stopper option that plays a fake video when opened. That's clever. Will also auto capture photos of anyone who tries to use the app without proper password and record their location. Gallery Lock. It's an Android app used to hide photos. It's one of the top 10 sold on Google Play. An app icon can be in stealth mode so it doesn't appear on the phone. It catches intruders' photos after 3 failed attempts to enter the device. That's shady right there. Hide It Pro is a free app to hide your private photos, videos, apps, or take secret notes. So your kids can actually like hide apps. You're not allowed to have Snapchat. So they'll just go create a secret Snapchat account and they'll hide it in Hide It Pro. And then when you pick up their phone, they don't have a Snapchat. I can't tell you how many times I've heard parents walk, my kid's not on Snapchat. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure your kid's on Snapchat. It's like, because other people talk about your kid being on Snapchat. Who doesn't have a Snapchat? I'm like, they got a Snapchat somewhere. It's disguised as a fully functional audio manager. The program disappears from the recent apps list, covering its users' tracks. So like when you open it up, like what's my kid been using? It's not on there because it just makes itself disappear. Snapchat. This popular social media and messaging app has a feature that most parents are unaware of. It's the Under My Eyes Only tab. Users can hide photographs with password protection. I will say this, nothing disappears off the internet. And even though Snapchat's like, oh, things delete after a minute, people screenshot stuff, there's ways to get around it. Anything you put on the internet will be there. Kids, if you're listening, when you go for a job interview in 10 years, businesses are already like combing social media pages to see what all you posted, like over the last 5, 10, 15 years. So when you go for a job in about 10 years, you better hope what you posted is not going to come back to haunt you. Okay, this next one, I call it Kim's. It's Android or iOS app that hides photos, PDFs, Word docs, Excel, PowerPoint, and text files. It's disguised as a calculator. There's a panic feature that by placing a hand over the screen, it closes the app. So if like someone's coming up to you, you can be like this, put your hand over it, it closes the app out. Yeah. Photo Locker. Photo Locker is Android hidden photo and video app. It has a stealth mode that hides the app in the Android drawer. Private Photo Calculator. It appears as a calculator, but by punching in a code, you unlock the photos or videos hidden behind the calculator icon. That's called Calculator. So if your child has 2 or 3 calculators on their phone, you need to be curious. They're hiding something. One of those apps are not genuine. Private Photo Vault. It's an iOS app to import photos into albums and hide them behind a pin lock. There's a decoy button that launches a different set of pictures. A reviewer that says the decoy password feature is great. When people are like reviewing this after they bought it or downloaded it, they say the password feature is great. Let's say someone sees a photo on a vault on your phone, and it's like, what is that? You can hand them the decoy password, and it opens up an entire differently fake set of photos. So like, what are you looking at? Your kid can like literally hand you decoy photos instead of what they're really looking at. The Smart Hide Calculator, it's an Android app that hides files. It appears as a calculator, but with the code, it unlocks the content. And so there's so many apps out there that are like that. So trying to be aware of what apps are on your kid's phone. And a lot of these things that we talked about with Apple or with Google, when your child downloads a new app, like some of these tools will tell you, oh, your child's downloaded a new app. But also being involved in like, you should be able to go and take your child's phone at any minute of the day and go through it if you want to. Jailbreaking or rooting apps. Jailbreak for Apple and rooting for Android basically hacks one's own phone device to lift restrictions on applications for the device. Allows teens to download third-party apps and gain access to other features like Poof and other hide tools used to hide apps and contents and games from parents. So there's a lot of things out there, really, honestly, that are available that your kids can get to. And when it comes to device usage, once again, kids are so much smarter than we are most of the time when it comes to that. I want to talk real quick about we've given you some tools, given you some devices, given you some apps to look for in vaults and lockers. The biggest tool you could use when it comes to trying to keep your kids safe online is to just be involved and connect with your kid. Accountability, boundaries, communication. There's always going to be conflict. I see a lot of parents really try to parent from a position when it comes with device usage of avoiding conflict. When it comes to this issue, you're not going to avoid the conflict. There's going to be a conflict. You just have to realize what the value of it and why that you're doing it and why that you're, because they are going to bow up and buck up and you say, okay, I'm taking your phone. We're going to put some tools on it. I'm going to be involved. We're going to monitor this. I'm going to help you learn how to be wise, to be safe with your phone and device usage from here forward. And they're going to be aggravated, and they're going to accuse you of violating their privacy. They're going to accuse you of being a bad parent. They're going to say all kinds of things. And most of the time when it comes to parenting, if you feel like you're a bad parent, you're probably doing it right. That means that you care enough and that you love your child enough that you're worried about how good of a job that you're doing. But you are going to get conflict from this. But setting boundaries for your child's device, saying this is when you can have it, this is when you can't, these are the right times to have it, these are not. Holding them accountable. Saying, okay, we've talked about this, you've not followed the rules, so now here's a consequence. And having the right type of tools and controls on there to kind of help keep your child safe is important. There should be a PDF popping up sometime soon with a bunch of links on it. And it's going to give you a lot of free resources. Some of what we talked about tonight is going to be on there. There will be a link to a PDF that has a whole list of apps for you to kind of look out for. And all the parental control solutions will be on there. There's a link called App Savvy, and you'll start going through pages and pages and pages of apps that tells you, hey, this is what your kids are downloading, this is the dangers of it, this is what you need to watch for. And it's a really good tool, really great resource. I really recommend that y'all scan those links over on this file that's going to pop up soon and kind of do a little research, dig in, and there'll be some parenting plans in there for you to like try to, hey, how do I need to really handle my child's device and safety after this? There's a lot of good resources there. And one of the ones I'm going to point out is called EverFi. And I really like EverFi, especially if you have a child that's in middle school age. There's a lot of really good, there's a train-in, I think it's called Ignition. It is, I don't think it is Ignition. And it's a digital wellness and safety plan from EverFi, and that's one of the links I recommend. If you've got a child that has a device and they're in middle school, you check out that Ignition training and you look into it and take it with them. It's about 2.5 hours, but it would be very valuable for you to kind of sit down, and it walks through situations with your child about what to do if someone you know posts on your social media app. And like it kind of walks your kid through asking them, and then they'll answer, oh, you respond or you don't, and then it will tell you why you should have done that or why you shouldn't have. And it's a very interactive, great tool. I love EverFi, and I really recommend that tool to some kids. I guess we're about ready for questions, if anyone has questions. Real quick, I do want to talk about, there's a lot of local resources that are available as well. And I want to talk a little bit about, we've got the Youth Family Resource Network, and it partners with a lot of the same partners that I partner with. And it's to kind of provide assets that kids need to thrive and families need to thrive, and contributing members of their schools and community This is accomplished by providing a safety net of services and resources to build skills and empower parents and families for the next generation. And that's located right here in Smith County. Another's the SPOT, and it's a nonprofit prevention organization that serves youth in Smith County. They offer after-school programs to all 5th through 12th grade students, and the goal is to reach out to students with a positive youth development program. That they have a great sense of community there. And then there's a teen substance abuse support group that is kicked off here in Smith County, and that's for kids who are struggling with or have loved ones who are struggling with substance abuse. And they have an amazing group of adult volunteers who are in recovery that facilitate the meetings. They bring real life experiences with the group, and I've heard a lot of really good things about that. I was in on some of the earlier meetings on that development, and you can find out a lot of information about that actually from the Youth Family Resource Network. Any questions? Then you're back, Ms. Griffin.
There was one question.
Okay.
Those apps you were talking about, like BART, and did that have to be installed on both our phones and the kids' phones?
Okay, so with Bark particularly, Bark can be installed on an Android, and you will have to have the phone, and this is how it installs on Android. So you get the phone, you install the Bark app, then you go to your phone and you set it up on your phone as well. They can open the Bark app and they can do a check-in. Like they can say, this is where my location is, or like find me, type, just a little check-in. And but that's all that they can do on there. But then it actually kind of embeds into the Google account that the phone's set up on, so the email's tracked. Then you sign in through that. You can go online without having the phone then and sign into their social media accounts, and Bark will begin to track that. But it does have to be installed on the phone, and they can see it, they just can't uninstall it.
I have another question too. Okay, so my son has Life 360 on his phone. He drives. So he has to have his location turned on.
Yeah.
Can we turn off the location in the other apps? Or do we have to go in there specifically and turn those off?
You can go in under apps, and when you open the app up, let's say you open up Snapchat, and they have turn off the location services. You can turn off the location services per app, not just on the phone. So you go in and turn it off under Snapchat, under Instagram. You can turn those off inside of the app, and it's usually through the control panel.
What about in Google? Because I know now when I take a picture, it tells me exactly where I took that picture.
Yep.
Is that bad?
You can turn
I
that
don't
off.
know that I turned it on, but it's on.
You can turn that off too. And, so do you have an Android phone? But everything kind of goes over to your Google Photos. Is that what you're saying?
iPhone. It's just iPhone.
It's just an iPhone, but it has
Yeah.
your location on it. Yeah, you can go in through your settings and probably turn that off. Probably under your phone app.
But it's not going to turn off the Life 360? Okay.
Now, if you go under General, or like go to like Tools or System, and then you open that up and you turn off your location services, like from the control panel of the phone, then yes, it will probably turn off 360. But if you go in and open up just the devices let me turn this off. So if I go on my iPhone here, if I go in under Settings, and then I can scroll down and I can see all my apps on here. And if I open up one of the apps, and as I open that app up, I can decide what it has, like does it have that on it? Or even inside, it's usually easier to do it in the permissions for the app than it is to actually open the app and do it. So I wouldn't turn your location settings off just from your actual control panel. I would open the app up in the control panel and turn its permissions off. That's what I would do.
This is Google Maps. Google Maps, so.
Google Timeline has saved my hind end a few times
Oh, yeah.
because I forgot where I have been. Like, did I do that? When did I do that? Was I there? And I can pull up Google Timeline. I'm like, oh, okay, there I was. That's exactly where I was. And so that saved my hind end a few times. I like Google Timeline, but I'm an adult, so I like being tracked for me. sometimes it's good to track your child like that too, so. Any other questions? All right. That's all we got.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you so much.